All right, let's get into it. We have a new James Harden update from Jake Fischer of Yahoo Sports. Also, Daryl Morey had an interview with Anthony Gargano of 97.5 The Fanatic yesterday and unveiled and confirmed that, yes, James Harden does want to get traded. He also took a peek into the Sixers' plans in the 2024 offseason. We're breaking it down here on Philadelphia 76ers Now. I'm Chase Sr. Appreciate all of you for joining us. Let's first start off with this poll question for the audience, because I'm fatigued by all of these James Harden updates. And we're at this point of the offseason where executives, players, these organizations in general across the NBA have been grinding ever since the preseason, ever since training camp. The regular season started at the back end of October. They go from the regular season into the playoffs, the draft, free agency, summer league. They finally have an opportunity to step away from the game of basketball. And that's why right now there's not much going on the trade front. Not a lot of transactions happening in NBA free agency. Really the big storyline across the NBA, Damian Lillard and James Harden. I'm tired of talking about it. Are you with me? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. As for the latest here on the beer, Daryl Morey acknowledged that Harden does in fact want to get dealt. Zach Lowe of ESPN said there's no trade market right now for James Harden. Teams aren't really willing to engage with Philadelphia because of the asking price, but also Damian Lillard diminishes the value of Harden on the trade market. And Zach Lowe, another good snippet from him, he said that the Clippers aren't willing to include Terrance Mann in the deal. Now, I highly doubt that Terrance Mann is the player that's holding a deal back from getting done, but I do think he's an important piece to throw in there from Philadelphia's point of view, because Tyrese Maxiell and Terrance Mann, two good young players who you can build around, and I think that Mann has had a couple of good playoff showings so far to start his career. So really, this is what we know with the latest information on Harden. Daryl Morey is in absolutely no hurry to trade Harden. We saw that he milked the Ben Simmons saga as long as he could have, and then he traded him away for what he thought was the best deal at the time. Now, he did say in that interview on The Fanatic that they looked into Tyrese Halliburton, but then the Sacramento Kings weren't willing to do that. So the Ben Simmons for James Harden trade was the best deal out there. And Morey is not going to get cents on the dollar for a top 75 player of all time who still is capable of putting up really big numbers. There's also this that we're going to talk about on the show today, is that the Sixers could be eyeing 2024. I don't think they're going to mail it in for 2023 and 2024 because they still have Joel Embiid as well as Tyrese Maxiell. But in free agency and next offseason, they could open up a lot of money if Harden and Tobias Harris both come back. You look at the contractual figures here and the potential cap space that the Sixers could create according to Spotrac here. James Harden is on that basically one-year contract for $33 million. Tobias Harris on the books for $39.2. You combine those salaries together, and that comes out to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $72 million that the Sixers could have in the bank for free agency next year to then surround Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxiell with another superstar or two. Now, here's the most recent report from Jake Fischer. We'll go through this, plenty of thoughts on it as well. Let's be clear, Jake Fischer said, no matter the Sixers' wishes, Harden still intends to play for the Clippers next year. There has been no substantial trade conversations for Philadelphia regarding Harden and any other team, as rival front offices have been briefed on Harden's unwavering focus on the Clippers and the Clippers alone. Now, let me ask you this question. What leverage does James Harden have? Think about it. What leverage does James Harden have? He wants to play for the Los Angeles Clippers, but the Clippers aren't willing to include Terrance Mann in a deal, and James Harden is operating and playing under a one-year contract after opting into that $35.5 million player option. He's going to be 34 years old this year. His blow-by rate is down. His finishing ability at the rim and in the restricted area has really plummeted over the last couple of years. He needs to be able to prove to other teams that he can stay healthy, that he can still be productive, that he's still a top-tier player in this league. And if he comes into camp out of shape and he doesn't produce for Philadelphia, that diminishes his value, and he's not going to get a large deal in free agency next offseason. He has to increase his value, in my opinion, and he's not going to do himself any favors if he continues to pout and have a bad attitude because other teams won't want to bring him in. It's also clear that James Harden took a look at the market in free agency, and he saw that no teams were willing to give him the years and the money that he was seeking. That's why he opted in to that deal with Philadelphia. Still a productive player, no doubt, but you see the regression here over the last 4 years taking place from 2019-2020 through 2022-2023. 34 points per game with Houston, all the way down to 21 points per game this past year with Philadelphia, obviously playing alongside Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and then Joel Embiid will lead to his scoring production going down, but it's clear if you watch him on a night-in, night-out basis like I do and like many of you do, he's also lost a step as well. More from Fischer. If this saga does drag out through September and until Media Day on October 2nd, Harden is expected at this point to report to training camp, according to league sources. You can cause far more headaches for the organization you're trying to leave by showing up, as opposed to staying home. With both the Rockets and the Nets, Harden made various trips away from the team for various nightlife activities. He made Brooklyn feel it had no other option but to trade him to the Sixers before the 2022 deadline or risk losing him for nothing. With Philadelphia, Harden's side is very much of the belief that joining the Clippers is not a matter of if, but a matter of when. So basically, to translate all of that and to summarize it, Harden's not going to hold out. He's going to report to training camp, but in what shape? We don't know what's going to happen with Harden. This is what I do know. Whatever happens with him, if he stays, if he goes, we're going to talk about it and cover it here on Philadelphia 76ers Now, because all throughout this offseason, we've had you covered step for step, every step of the way. We're closing in on 12,000 subscribers. Let this be your year-round home for Sixers content here on YouTube. We're also in the peak player unfollowed the team, removed them from his bio type season. Previously, the Sixers were in James Harden's bio. Now, they're not. All it is his wine company at J. Harden Wines. Now, you look ahead, right? Do the Sixers have a plan? They really haven't had one, or at least they haven't appeared to have one all throughout this offseason. It's been very, very frustrating. But Daryl Morey and this organization seem to potentially be planning, perhaps, for 2024. Here's what Morey had to say in that interview on The Fanatic. What we're attempting to do is to have the best team possible this year, but also have the ability that if we get into a next season situation, to be a very unique team with the most cap room of a team that's as good as us. That's a very unique situation to have. And we talked about the cap space earlier, north of $70 million. Now, the Philadelphia 76ers did not give Tyrese Maxiell an extension this offseason and plan on not giving him an extension until next year so that they can open up another max slot to use that money as well as the money that could free up from Harden and Tobias Harris. And Daryl Morey also said that Maxiell is going to be a cornerstone player for this organization for a really long time. I agree with that sentiment. I think that Maxiell can be a very elite player in this league, and I think that he's shown that right now he already has borderline all-star potential. We've seen the growth at hand right in front of our very eyes in his first 3 years in the NBA. You know, he gets drafted out of Kentucky, 8 points per game, 46% from the deck, 30% from three. Then he doubles that production in year two. And then this past year was really, really good. It was weird how Doc Rivers tried to experiment with him coming in off the bench. He's clearly at his best and more comfortable as a starter. And that's a big reason why he really turned it on after the All-Star break. 20 points per game, 48% from the floor, and 43% from three-point range. Also, one of the more efficient offensive players on catch-and-shoots, pull-up threes, and finishing within 10 feet. So you look at the numbers here from Tyrese Maxiell, and you see the growth. You see the development. The question is, can he become a Jamal Murray-like player alongside Joel Embiid? Because Maxiell's numbers in his first 3 years are actually a lot better than Jamal Murray's, who just won a championship alongside the Joker, and Jamal Murray can be that bucket getter that you need in the guts of a game. He could score at all three levels. Tyrese Maxiell a little bit better of a three-point shooter than him from a percentage standpoint. I'd say that Murray might have a better ability to handle the basketball, also a little bit thicker and bigger, so he's able to create space for himself, whereas sometimes Maxey needs that downhill action to get to the cup with momentum. But Maxey, I'm bullish on him, and I think that at some point he can be a legit co-star next to Embiid. Is that this year or next year? We'll see what the Sixers' plans are. Only time will tell. So in summary here, I think it's really hard to get excited for next year. Like, we're looking at a Sixers team where they might run it back. They might bring back James Harden. They might bring back Tobias Harris. And even if they get rid of Harden or they get rid of Harris, are they truly contenders this year? The Sixers will be exciting. They're going to win a lot of games, probably 50 plus. But when it comes time for the NBA playoffs, we know that this team is going to have a clear ceiling. They're not going to be legitimate NBA championship contenders. I hope I'm right. That's just the gut feel as of right now. So with that, let's transition to this. Your level of confidence in the Sixers here. Scale it for me from 1 to 100. I want to know. And if you want to interact with me on Twitter and Instagram, you can find me on social media here. It's the same handle on both platforms. Would love to hear from all of you.